Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I am Nick, joined here, of course, by KP. We are back for another recap of Monday Night Raw. So, without further ado, let's get started. Monday Night Raw on February 10th, 2025, kicks off with Jey Uso and seemingly how every show kicks off these days. Jey Uso and his entrance, eating through the crowd. I think two or three playthroughs of a song. I think I clocked it at around 8 minutes before the music finally stopped. That might be 8 minutes or 8 minutes when Gunther got involved. Regardless, we got about 10 minutes of that before Gunther finally comes in and basically tries to stop him, which I'm sure KP was pretty disappointed. He wanted to eat all night long. But Gunther comes in, they're separated by crowds, and the end point as security guards are taking Gunther off and going back up the ramp, and Jay grabs the mic again and declares that Gunther will be the person he's chasing for WrestleMania, to the surprise of very few, I'm sure. So yeah, that's our Mania match there. And next we go on to a tag match. Kind of we saw the start of this last week with Liv and Raquel attacking Io, and then Rhea trying to help, and then that backfired. But tonight we just get Damage Control and Io Sky and Dakota Kai up against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. And surprisingly, this was a really, really good match. We had This Is Awesome chants coming from the crowd. They really let this one have a bunch of time. And yeah, this was a great match. And after the match, I'm kind of thinking, wow, we're finally giving these guys some time in the women's tag division. And sure enough, afterwards, Michael Cole says something about the tag division is really heating up, and Damage Control just knocked off the number one contenders. So clearly, we're trying to build that, which is great. Obviously, tag divisions on both men's and women's side are not good on Raw. That is. So this is great to see, and I think Damage Control winning, adding another team to that mix is always good. One thing I did note was that Liv and Raquel, they don't get introduced at all as the Judgment Day. So that's kind of something I tried to take note of tonight. Something else comes down on that later as well. And then we have Bailey and Lyra Valkyria for a Elimination Chamber qualifier. For whatever reason, the crowd was just not into this one. I personally thought it was a really good match and a very technical match. But maybe it was just back. Maybe that wasn't saying right with the crowd. Personally, for me, I don't think that should matter. But anyways, two of the best in the division as far as I'm concerned. It for some reason just didn't hit. And yeah, Bailey wins in a kind of a anticlimactic way, with the roll up there. But regardless, Bailey wins and qualifies for the chamber. And then we move on to the return promo of AJ Styles. Nothing groundbreaking here. Crowd was very over. AJ Styles has a big history in Nashville, so good to see him back, of course. Quickly interrupted by Dom, the Judgment Day, and Carlito. That ends in a scuffle. AJ Styles stands strong, Dominic escapes, and Carlito gets the business end of a phenomenal forearm. So, KP, what were your thoughts on all things listed here and your big takeaways here?
Yeah, like you said, it's no real surprise that Jey Uso has chosen Gunther as his opponent of WrestleMania. Everyone pretty much assumed that was going to be the direction they were going to be taking with that. Does mean now that the Elimination Chamber is going to be, obviously, the winner of that one will go to face Cody Rhodes at the Showcase of the Immortals. That's quite interesting. Who's going to go and face Cody for the WWE Championship? Obviously, looking forward to seeing how that goes down. But yeah, Jey Uso, Gunther, we all saw that one coming, and now it's all confirmed. So yeah, we'll see how that one takes place in WrestleMania. Regarding the women's tag team match, I just want to say for a second here, what a match this was. It was unbelievable. It was brilliant. In terms of like women's tag team matches on WWE main roster as of late, I think this one stands tall as like one of the best ones in recent memory. All four women were terrific, especially Liv Morgan and Io Sky. They absolutely killed it, the two of them. But yeah, what a contest this was. I think quite interesting that they had Io and Dakota go over, considering Liv and Raquel are the number one contenders for the women's tag team titles. So yeah, whether this maybe transitions now to a triple threat contest perhaps going forward, I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility for sure. But I really thoroughly enjoyed this match. It was a great watch. Bayley and Lara Valkyria. Yeah, I mean, the right winner here, in my personal opinion. You know, there's no need to put Lyra in the Elimination Chamber when she could be defending, you know, her title herself. Probably going to be against Ivy Nile based on the recent interactions we've seen between the two of them. So yeah, you know, Bayley, Lyra, decent enough match. It was okay. Roxanne Perez watching on in attendance. Obviously, she's got this thing going on with Bayley right now as well. Didn't get involved in the match, but yeah, I think the right winner here for sure. Bayley goes to the Elimination Chamber. Happy with that. And then, yeah, AJ Styles. It's great to see him back in the return to the Royal Rumble. Let's see if he can get back into the swing of things here. Obviously, just with a little promo, you know, familiarizing himself with the crowd, the pace of the show. And yeah, it's where he should be. He's still got some years left in him, in my opinion. And yeah, looking forward to seeing where he goes to going forward this. But obviously, he's got a match next week against Dominic Mysterio. If I remember rightly, Adam Pearce saying that was confirmed. So yeah, looking forward to seeing him back in the action. It's great to see him back in WWE once again.
Yeah, and a couple other things to mention there. With AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio coming in, AJ Styles asked Dominic Mysterio, "Where's the rest of Judgment Day?" So within these first couple segments, we got a couple of basically stating, you know, the elephant in the room. You know, why isn't Judgment Day together anymore? Obviously, JD being out is a big part. And we also see a backstage segment where Dominic is asking Finn to maybe asking or telling Liv's kind of there supporting him as well. Maybe we should get a new member. Finn quickly shuts that down. So it's interesting to see them still trying to keep the Judgment Day alive. I personally would be surprised if they're still together after Mania. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. I feel like I've been thinking that for what feels like years. I know it hasn't been, but the Judgment Day hasn't been booked strong for a while now. Another point, and feel free to add to this if you'd like, is kind of the mid card titles. I think Lyra Valkyria, since taking the IC title, has certainly not been booked very well. And I know it's been a very short time, obviously. But in that time, she declared for the Rumble, and then she tried to go to the Elimination Chamber, basically swerving any opportunity to defend or even start something. I know we mentioned the back and forth between Ivy, but yeah. So as you said, I think Bayley winning was the right choice here, and hopefully now we can get kind of something going with that. And you have the similar issue with the U.S. title on the men's side. So hopefully we can make those titles, you know, especially the IC titles, and Braun's done a great job of it. Should be the workhorse title, and hopefully we can start to see that on the women's side as well.
Yeah, I think I will add a little bit onto that regarding the mid-card championships in the company. I think we may have a little disagreement here on Bron Breakker at the moment. I love what Bron's doing, don't get me wrong, I think he's fantastic and he's great. But I don't think that his IC title is really being showcased as much as what I'd like it to be. Like, yeah, Bron's being presented as a big deal, which is obviously great for him, but I don't feel like there's a lot of, a lot of interest in that championship. I think he had a bit of a stare down with Penta a couple of weeks ago. That seems to have basically been forgotten about, and we're not really going down that route anymore, because we saw a segment, a little flash, I guess, later on in the night here, where AJ Styles and Bron Breakker would actually have a little face-off backstage, just literally wouldn't say a word to each other and just stare each other down for a couple of moments. But yeah, I felt like, I don't know, the mid-card championship, they don't really seem to be getting the attention I think they deserve. You look at the women's intercontinental title, obviously that's recently been awarded to Lyra Valkyria, and I don't think she's had the strongest start. She's good, she's great, but I feel like the championship isn't being showcased well enough just yet. Then you obviously look at the men's United States Championship, Shinsuke Nakamura. I know you're a big fan of Shinsuke, and I like Shinsuke as well. But I feel like, I don't know, he's sort of just not disappeared, but almost like been pushed aside. And like we're just not going to bother with him right now because we've got other things to focus on for the time being. And I feel like that's almost, I don't know, almost probably worse than what we've had recently between Lyra and Bron Breakker. But like, we don't see enough of Shinsuke. And then you've got the Women's United States Championship, Chelsea Green. I actually think she's probably the one who's showcasing her mid-card championship the most right now. I think, for that to be the case is quite something. And I want to see the other three sort of like be able to really sort of like make them be more prestigious and to rise them up a little bit. I think you could contrast it between Gunther's reign and Bron Breakker's right now. They're just so vastly different. So I would love to see them have a bit more stock in right now. I think that's a main criticism I have, just going off the back of the Lara Valkyria conversation there.
Yeah, and you make a good point about Bron Breakker. I think maybe not in as many matches, but I feel like overall his title feels like the most important of the four mid card. And granted, the U.S. and the IC on the women's side are still new, as we both mentioned. But yeah, I think Chelsea Green's title feels vastly more important than Lyra's. So hopefully, and I know it's Mania season, everyone's booked hard, and we got a lot going on. But this was WWE's decision to bring in these mid card titles. So if we're going to do that, and see women's and men's tag titles as well, they decided to split those. If you're going to do all this, you're going to have all these titles. You need to put in the work for them. So with that being said, I had some mention of Bron Breakker and Penta. In between these two slides here, we had a backstage vignette, kind of further pushing Penta, and as if his wins and his presence already wasn't enough. Getting a vignette while you're still there is kind of insane. So I think the sky is the limit for him. I would be shocked if he, as you kind of mentioned, maybe he will get back to Braun. I'm not sure. Braun has his hands full with all the other guys currently as well. So I would be surprised if Penta isn't in some sort of title scene by Mania. But again, we only have although we do have a lot, we only have so many people we can put in those. So yeah. Next we get Seth Rollins, who comes out. It's kind of a pretty generic Seth Rollins promo, but then interrupted by Finn Balor. And I think the grand takeaway here is what should be an absolute banger per usual. We get another round of Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. I don't think anyone will complain about that next week on Raw. And then we move on to the War Raiders versus the Creed Brothers for the tag team titles. This one was a bit of a head scratcher. Match was good, going on great. And then the Creed Brothers disqualified themselves by using the titles for which they could have won by winning this match. So I'm not really sure what the point of that was. I think Michael Cole said something, they're making a statement. And to me, I think a better statement would have been to win these titles that you're currently trying to get, that you're in a tag championship match for. That probably would have made a better statement, but curious to get your thoughts on that one. Didn't really make a lot of sense to me personally. And even before, their Lyra Valkyria is talking to Ivy about, them getting all the gold. Well, you could have right there. But anyways, we'll move on from that. CM Punk comes in to cut a CM Punk promo, mowing down all his competition, currently known for the Elimination Chamber, interrupted by Logan Paul. And in my opinion, this was a really good promo. These two guys really went at it, and I really enjoyed this. Yeah, we'll see where the Punk feels like he has an endless amount of people he can face at Mania, and all of them are enticing. This one has to be towards the top of my list. I think Logan Paul and CM Punk, and on social media, my goodness, that would be quite the match. I know you're not a big fan of either, or at least the characters of them. But yeah, I personally would love to see that one. And then we go on to what ends up being the main event: Logan Paul versus Rey Mysterio. This was, of course, a great match. How can you go wrong with these two guys in the ring? And Logan Paul ends up winning, which I don't think that probably surprised too many people. Yeah, so they got Logan Paul, CM Punk, John Cena, and Drew McIntyre currently in the Elimination Chamber. Wow, that should be great. One other thing, in addition to the comments on the tag title match, KP, I'm curious. Um, as Netflix is going off Raw, Rey Mysterio is attacked by the New Day. Um, I'm curious if yours cut off as well, because on my end, as soon as they came in, it cut off. You barely saw him touch him, but enough to see what they were obviously attacking him, but that was it. And then the Netflix logo comes up, and that's the end of the show. So curious if it was the same over there where you are. Um, but then looking through the pictures for this presentation, um, they had a little more. So I'm curious if that's how it looked over there.
Yeah, just to answer your question on the back of that there, yeah, it did seem like that for me. I was just watching the show, coming to a close. I wasn't actually sure this was the main event until the things came up at the bottom of the screen, the trademark films or whatever. But yeah, as Ray was literally getting attacked, I think it lasted maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and then the feed just went off. So I was like, oh, is that it? I'm guessing so. Okay. All right. Well, whatever then, I suppose. But yeah, it was a bit of an abrupt ending, and I'm not entirely sure why. I guess maybe they were a bit scrapped for time or something. They had to quickly abruptly end. I don't know, but yeah, it was a bit of an odd call, and I was expecting to see at least the frenzy sort of go on a little bit more. But to be fair, it was a bit of an odd one, but it didn't take away from the match being quite fun to watch. I thought Logan Paul really upped his game here, showcased a little bit more of his game, having a new finisher, which I quite like the look of, to be fair. Hitting on someone like Rey Mysterio is a really awesome thing to see. Whether he can do it on someone a lot bigger and a lot more, I don't know, a lot, maybe someone of larger stature, perhaps then that would be quite interesting to see. But no, I think it's great. It's much better than his right hand, just hitting it with the titanium in there. I think that's a bit poor. But no, this is good. It's a good finisher. I think they call it the Pornisher. I can't remember what it is that Pat dubbed it, but yeah, it's great. It's got a good vibe to it. Looks good, and much better than his previous one. But yeah, what a match it was between the two of them. Logan Paul advancing, I think, is no real surprise here. And I like Rey Mysterio as much as the next guy, but I think Logan right now is unfortunately, I think I'm actually going to say this. I think he is just a bigger attraction for the company, which is just crazy to think and say. But yeah, I'm sort of working backwards here now, but why not? Let's do it. We're in the motion. The promo between Punk and Logan, that was pretty good. They sort of had that little face to face, little back and forth, and I think Logan, sort of held his own against somebody who's good on the mic as CM Punk is. But yeah, it sort of builds a bit more towards the Elimination Chamber. I like the shade that Punk sort of threw towards Logan Paul. And I think Pat sort of doubled down on that as the theme song started to play. It's quite funny, maybe a little bit of a backhanded thing towards Death Rebel there as well. But no, it was a good segment here. These two worked well together in the ring there. Promo work was pretty good. The chemistry was oozing. So yeah, enjoyed it. Hyped up a little more, and it was nice to hear. Speaking of promos, we've got the obviously thing with Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. The top left of the screen there. I mean, it's kind of expected, really. They got their match coming up next week on Raw. Winner goes to the Elimination Chamber. It's already a really stacked deal as it is, so no matter who's added here, it's going to be obviously another big name added. I would imagine it's going to be Seth freaking Rollins that's going to be added, because Finn, you can't buy a win in a important win recently. But I would love to see Finn be in that match. I want Finn to have a resurgence. I want him to, rise back up, because he's good enough. He's more than good enough. But I don't know what's really going on booking-wise, creatively speaking. Who knows, really? But yeah, I mean, these two hyping that up for next week. It's going to be a barnstorm. But every time, like Seth said, every time these two meet in the middle of the ring, it's good. It's gold. It's classic. So I'm sure this one will be the next installment of that. And then we had the American-made tag team championship opportunity against Viking Raiders. Viking Raiders? No, the War Raiders. I think they used that change of name, so I haven't got used to that one yet. And yeah, honestly, I was enjoying the match. I really, really was. And then the ending happened. I was like, I get why they've done it, but I just would have liked to have seen, I don't know, a proper finish. But yeah, it's a bit of an odd one. Like, they're standing parading the gold. They haven't even won them, but they're standing up holding them as if they've just beat the tag team champions. And it's just a weird feeling in like, I don't know, that I had afterwards. But I think these two are one of the best teams going. Julius and Brutus Creed, they're phenomenal. Given their chance to go, they're amazing. They're probably, one of the best teams going. But I think recently they've sort of been a bit of a joke, especially this character for Brutus. He was never like this on NXT, so it's quite interesting to see him like it now. But yeah, I mean, I think these two are the best teams on Raw. So they're sort of doing this finish to sort of like extend the feud between the two of them. Well, the two of them, two teams, yeah. I guess it sort of makes you question why they had the match tonight. Maybe it could have been a one-on-one match, maybe between Ivar or Eric against one of the Creed brothers. But yeah, I don't know. Just a bit of an odd choice here to have it go like it did, but I do understand why. But I mean, just speaking generally, these four segments were quite enjoyable. I quite liked them all for what they were worth, and yeah, not too bad to be fair.
Yeah, in terms of long-term booking, of course, it makes sense to not have a clean finish. You can continue this up until Mania, I suppose, if that's what they want to do. But yeah, I think outside of maybe um, the Judgment Day probably getting in this mix again as well at some point. If they're not going elsewhere, like the Wyatt Six or something. Yeah, I think these are probably the two best teams. Definitely need to shake up after Mania, I think, or whatever we want to call that, because it does feel a bit one sided when you look at the Raw and SmackDown tag divisions. Yeah, and Finn, as you mentioned, definitely a shell of himself. Absolutely needs to get out of the Judgment Day as quick as possible. Get him back to the Demon would be fantastic. Back on his own. There's just so many things he could be doing that he's not. So to get him back in that main event picture needs to happen sooner rather than later. Um, I think that goes without saying. But with that, for me personally, this was probably the best Raw that I think I've seen since we've moved over to Netflix. I don't know if you feel the same, but yeah, I gave tonight's Raw a 9 out of 10. It feels like we're moving in the right direction. The Raws we've had since, outside of the first one that just felt kind of like a showcase, bunch of big names coming in. It wasn't a ton of wrestling on that first one, but since then it just felt like we were kind of lost. We didn't have much direction, and this one I felt like we were taking a step in the right direction, and everything here, similar to SmackDown last week, had meaning and had purpose. Even if I don't agree with the decision on the tag match, everything felt like it had a meaning. But even you could even argue, we know where we're going. So, what were your thoughts on this one overall, and compared to what we've gotten so far since the move?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think it is an improvement. I think it's a step in the right direction, for sure, like you said. I think that because of how things have been recently, that it's sort of like made it seem like making a better show is a little easier for them. But I think as long as they can stick to stuff similar to this, maybe a couple of little things here and there they could touch up and improve on. But yeah, it's better. It's better. I think this is the first time in a few weeks that I'd actually watched Raw whilst thinking to myself, you know what, this doesn't feel like a chore to watch. It actually feels like pretty good. I'm enjoying this in parts, and for the majority of it as well. So yeah, I don't really have any bad things to say about this show, except for perhaps maybe the opening segment, which I'm just not interested in at all right now. But yeah, no, regardless of that, everything else is pretty standard, and there were some highlights for sure, especially the main event and that women's tag team match. I think that's my ideal moment of the night. I think I'd probably give the show, I'd say an 8 out of 10. I sort of told between 7.5 and 8, but I'll go with 8. I think I'm being generous. I think I'm being nice here, being nice. So yeah, 8 out of 10. Definitely, doing the right stuff here, which is good, and just want more of it going into WrestleMania. I mean, it's WrestleMania season. Come on, we deserve some big things coming up, right? And obviously, this is the Elimination Chamber. They're stacking those chambers, so it's filling us with a bit of hype and excitement for those as well. So yeah, can't really complain regarding those.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like as you said, it's Mania season. That's what we want to be building up to, and both Elimination Chamber matches look really, really good. So yeah, we'll continue to build, and we will be back. Let's see, NXT tonight. I think our goal is to be back tomorrow. Um, may or may not get pushed a day depending on some outside circumstances, but we will at the latest be back by Thursday to do a recap on NXT and then a predictions video for Vengeance Day this Saturday. So continuing the build to Mania. As we keep saying every podcast, it's the best time to be a wrestling fan. So with that, this has been another episode of The Push with Nick and KP, and we'll see you guys next time.